What's up everybody, I'm Matt Brody and this is Simply Must Go, and today we are going to tackle the question of what jumper pack should you pick for your vehicle. Now before we get started, I want to preface this with actually saying that I'm not going to tell you a specific jumper pack to pick for your vehicle because everybody's situations are different. What I am going to tell you are some of the common questions that I get, because I've done a bunch of jumper pack reviews and I get a lot of questions asking certain things. So I'm going to kind of walk you through how I would go about picking a jumper pack for me. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences because they're not all the same. Despite what you might think, it's not sort of a everybody's got the same thing. There's all a bunch of subtle little differences between brands, between different things and features that they have, and some of them may or may not be important to you. So I'm going to kind of walk through each of these, kind of give you the pros and cons of what these are and how I would think about them in terms of purchasing one for me. And then at the end, I'll tell you exactly how I use these because I actually use all of these in different ways in different vehicles. Another thing I want to say is this is not a sponsored video. I have purchased some of these battery packs. I have been given some of these battery packs in the past, but none of the brands that are here sent me anything for this particular video. This is all me, and it's going to be as honest as I can possibly be about each of these. The other thing to know is that for the most part, all of these jumper packs, no matter what brand you get, they're all pretty much made in China, probably all at roughly the same factory. The difference is going to be in how many amps and some of the features that they have in the bag, in the chargers, things like that. So none of these are going to be like, you know, the American-made brand. They're all going to be probably from overseas. All right, so let's start with the NoCo first. This is the NoCo GB40. NoCo is probably the brand that you're going to be the most familiar with because it's the brand that if you walk into like an AutoZone or an Advanced Auto Parts, or maybe it's both, they have sort of a whole display of NoCo products, including jumper packs and battery tenders and things like that. So NoCo makes a lot of products that people really like. And so I'm going to walk you through a couple things about the NoCo that I like and a couple things I don't like. The NoCo GB40 is a 1000 amp jumper pack. That means it's good for anywhere from like a 6-liter gas engine to up to a 3-liter diesel engine. Couple things about it. The display is just okay. A lot of the jumper packs will have a very similar display where you're basically getting the information in quarters. You're getting it as a 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100% battery indicator. It does have a boost mode, so if you're jumping a car and it's not starting necessarily, you can hit that boost mode and it kind of gives it its max peak power in order to jump it. The thing I don't really love about the GB40 at this point is it's older technology. It just has a single USB-A out and a micro USB in for charging. It does have an emergency light that's pretty easy to use, so that's nice. It's got fairly standard alligator clips. They're short, but they work. It looks like it has what I would consider a proprietary connector. As you look at the connector of all of the other battery packs that we're going to look at, this one's the only one that's not the same, which means it's not going to be interchangeable with another one. If you know you had one and it was dead and someone else had one and you could change. I don't know why you would change them out, but just know that it's proprietary. One of the things that I think is really important about the jumper packs, at least for me, is what they're stored in. Is the battery pack going to be protected? Is it going to spill out in the trunk and leave its, you know, parts and pieces everywhere? That's where I think the NoCo kind of falls short. It just comes in this sort of drawstring bag that doesn't actually have a drawstring. It's just sort of this cinched down kind of bag, and this has spilled out on a number of times in the back of the Jeep or in the back of a car. I really, of all the ones, I hate the bag the most. You know, scale of 1 to 10 for the bag, I give it like a 2. One of the other reasons I'm not really a fan of the bags is because they're soft. They can get bumped and pressed against, and then all of a sudden your light's on and you didn't know it and you're draining your battery. So not my favorite. But other than that, the jumper pack is decent. I've used it several times and it has always performed well, and it's always jumped the vehicle that I needed it to jump. The other thing to know about these jumper packs is that there is a variety of price ranges that you're going to find. And of all of these, I would consider the NoCo to be actually one of the more expensive ones. For being a 1,000 amp jumper pack, on Amazon right now, it's listed at just under $100, which means it's going to be more expensive than some of the more powerful jumper packs. And this doesn't come with a great bag, nor does it come with the charging cables. So you're getting less, and it's costing you more, and a lot of what you're paying for in this case is the NoCo brand name. All right, so next up we're going to talk about the JF.EGWO. And this is another instance where it's clearly a Chinese brand. This costs $89 on Amazon, so it's automatically a little bit cheaper than the NoCo. It's also a 1,000 amp jumper pack, but what it does also have is a tire inflator. So this serves a dual purpose. Not only do you get the jumper pack option, but if you've got a flat or a low tire, you can use this to fill up your tire as well, and it's all run off of the same battery. In an off-road instance, obviously I'm an overland channel, we do a lot of off-roading. This is not the tire inflator you want to use to air up your tires on an overland trip. This is like that emergency on the side of the road kind of a thing, or you're at Target, and the old lady who parked next to you has a flat and you're trying to help her out kind of a thing. This is not for airing up 35-inch tires. Though I will say I aired up a 33-inch tire with this and it worked. It just took a lot of the battery. So don't expect that you're going to be airing up 4 full tires with this. This is really like that emergency on the road kit. Now they claim that this will jump up to a 7-liter gas engine. This also has 2 USB outputs. It does have larger alligator clips, but the black cable or the negative is fairly short, which can make it kind of a problematic thing if you're working in an engine bay where you don't have as much space or the layout's kind of funky. I have been in situations with it where it's just hard to get that negative cable around and have a place to put the battery pack that's not like sitting on a belt. It does have an LED display for the power, but it has an old school gauge for the air pressure, which, take it or leave it. I don't know that that's a pro or a con. The analog one may or may not be more prone to accuracy or failing. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. It's just interesting that one is digital and one is analog. The nice thing about this is that it does come with everything you need to charge it, both AC cords and DC cords, so that you can charge this with everything that's included, unlike some of these other ones where they only come with a cable and not the brick, or they don't even come with a cable. This one does include everything you need to charge it. It does come in a nice bag. It works. It's not my favorite. It's a personal preference thing. I'm really not sure like what scenario I'm going to be in where like a shoulder strap is something that I'm worried about having this for. I guess maybe if you're like taking this out and you're trying to like use the air pump to air up pool toys or something like that, and you want to take it up, I guess you could use the strap for that. Otherwise, it's got a nice zipper. Everything stays in there. It's got plenty of room. But yeah, it's a different style case than all of the other ones, and it works. It's just not my favorite. And it also has a light, and that light is just a light. It doesn't flash, so it doesn't have like an SOS or emergency. It's basically just a glorified flashlight on this, which is fine. It just is what it is. I kind of wish it had the flashing one just in case you needed it on the side of the road, but it doesn't, and you know what? Oh well. All right, so now let's talk about the Auxito AJ01. This is a neat little jumper pack because it packs a lot of punch in a fairly small amount of space. So what's cool about this is that this is a 3,500 amp battery pack. So it's designed to have a little bit more power. It's going to have more power than the NoCo and the JF here. It's also got a tire inflator. So you can do the same sort of thing you did with the JF and it's a smaller package. And I will say we used this to air up my daughter's tires and it worked great. One of the things I love about it is it's got an LCD display. And so it tells you the exact amount of power left in the device. So it doesn't do the 25, 50, 100. You get like it's 78% left or whatever. We were able to air up all the tires in her car, and we still had plenty of power left that if we needed to jump something, we probably could have. That said, the cool thing about the air pressure or the air inflator in this is that you can set the PSI. So as you're doing it, you tell it, like I want to pump this up to 35 PSI, and it'll run until it reaches that PSI, and then it'll automatically shut off, which is something that like the JF doesn't do. You have to kind of watch it and stop it when it gets to that point. So that's a really cool little feature in this, and I love that it comes in this sort of harder, firm case. All the rest of these come in a very similar case. It holds the unit very well. It's not going to spill out. It's got a nice zipper. The pack itself has a USB-C input for power and a USB-A output. It does come with the air hose and the jumper cables. The jumper cables are decent, but they're not the widest and they're not the longest. But in most situations, they should get the job done. The pump also includes all the little adapters that you need for pumping up things like balls or floats or things like that. Again, I'm going to tell you that I would be hesitant about using these devices for that kind of a thing because they're really jumper packs at heart, and I wouldn't want to waste the battery filling up balloons or balls or floats or things like that, and then find out I have a dead battery and I can't jump it. Like, I would always save this for emergency scenarios, so for your tire or for your battery. But they do have that as a last resort just in case, and I think it's cool that they included it. I just don't think I would ever use that. It does come with a USB cable for charging, but not the brick or a 12 volt. So you have to provide, a way to plug in the cable, but it gives you the cable to plug it in. Right now, the Auxito retails for $109, so for about $10 more than the NoCo, I think you get a lot more bang for your buck out of it because you're getting a bigger jumper pack and you're getting the air inflator. Speaking of price, let's move on to the cheapest one on the table, which is this GooLoo 1500. It retails on Amazon for around $55, which makes it by far the best deal on the table. GooLoo claims that this will jump an 8-liter gas or a 6-liter diesel engine. It's got a pretty basic display. It's got 4 lines indicating 25% each. It does have an emergency light that's also the power button, which is a little confusing from a user standpoint. You really have to kind of know what you're doing to get to that light. I don't love that. I wish it was a dedicated button, but once you know how to use it, it's not a big deal. The thing I don't like about this is the bag. While I think it's better than like the drawstring, it's pretty basic, it's soft, and it's just sort of this Velcro at the front. And while I've never had anything spill out of it, it just feels less secure than the other ones. And so if there was anything that I was going to say about upgrading this, it would probably be to a little bit nicer bag or a case. In terms of the alligator clips, these are pretty standard. There's no real complaints. They're basically the normal alligator clips that you get with most of these jumper packs. It doesn't come with any charging cables, so you're going to need to provide your own USB-C for charging, and it does have some USB-A ports for output power if you were going to do something like that. One of the things that makes this somewhat unique, though, is that while it doesn't come with charging cables, it does come with a DC adapter, which is something that the other ones don't come with. Some of them have the option for running a DC adapter, but they don't come with it. This does come with it, so that's kind of cool. Again, one other thing I'll point out is with any of these, I'm not really a fan of using these to charge things like cell phones or other devices because in my mind, these are for emergencies and I don't want to waste that battery charging up a cell phone. Now, obviously, if you're stuck on the side of the road and you're going to have to like walk, miles out of the woods to get somewhere and your phone's almost dead, perfect, go for it. Charge your phone up so as soon as you get a signal, call somebody. But that's the kind of thing that you use this for. You don't use it because the kids are low on battery and you're on a trip and they need to charge it. And use these for emergencies, please. All right, so now let's talk about the AMPRoad iRock 40. This is a 2000 amp or a peak 4000 amp battery pack. It should jump up to a 10-liter gas engine or a pretty good sized diesel engine. It has a nice LED display giving you the actual percentage. I do like the hard shell case in here. It does have smaller alligator clips, which I don't love, but again, in most situations, it's probably fine. I've just come into some situations where the smaller ones are a little bit harder to deal with, and I prefer having some larger and longer ones. It does come with a USB cable, but not the charging brick. I've used this to jump a bunch of cars over the years, and it has always worked really well for me. Right now, this retails on Amazon for about $129, so it's a little bit more expensive than the Auxito and the NoCo. Definitely more expensive than these other two, particularly the GooLoo. but it is not the most expensive one on the list. The most expensive one is going to be this Topdon JS3000, and this thing is absolutely massive. This is a 3,000 amp jumper pack, which should be good to jump up to a 9-liter gas or a 10-liter diesel engine. The LCD screen is okay. It has the 4 dots indicating 25, 50, 75, and 100%. The thing I love about this is it has huge alligator clips. It has USB-C for charging and 2 USBs for output. It does have a DC output as well, but it does not have the DC adapter included with it. The nice thing about this is it comes with both the charging cable and a charging brick so that you can have everything you need to charge this and use this right out of the box, which is great. The other thing I really like about this unit itself is that the actual unit has a handle and a stand and a built-in hanger, so you can really be versatile with how you're using this if you need to mount it somewhere or hang it somewhere in order to be used. It also has the biggest and brightest light of any other jumper packs that I have here. So while this is the biggest and most powerful jumper pack of the group, it's also the most expensive, and it retails for about $186 on Amazon right now, which makes it the most expensive jumper pack that I own. So I promised I would give you sort of a breakdown of what I thought of these at the end and then how I use them in real life and what vehicles. So from a price perspective, the best deal in the house is the Gulu. Right? It's the least expensive. It's $54 for a very solid jumper pack. It doesn't have all of the goodies and all of the extras, but you know, providing your own charging cable isn't a huge deal. And if you just need a solid jumper pack at a good price, the Gulu is definitely an option for you. Now, obviously, if you want the biggest and the baddest and the price isn't really a concern to you, the Topdon here is an awesome way to go. This thing will jump just about anything in any parking lot, which is actually something that I'm going to recommend to you, is to not necessarily get the least you can get or the one that's going to jump your vehicle, because I'll be honest, 9 times out of 10 that I've used a jumper pack, I'm jumping somebody else. I was at Jeep Beach recently, and there was somebody with a pretty big pickup, one of my buddies, Cole from Tyree. His truck was dead, and I used the Topdon to jump that, and it worked perfectly. So if you're just after pure power, the Topdon delivers that. Now, the JF.EGWO actually lives in my daughter's car, and there's a reason for that, because it's a dual-purpose tool. It has both the jumper pack and the air compressor in it, and I want her to have something that's easy to use. She doesn't have to figure out which thing is which. She knows she can just go into this bag, and she knows how to use it. So from that perspective, this is a great option if you want to have something that is going to do both. That said, the Auxito actually lives in my wife's car. Just because it's a little bit nicer. She's got stuff that's coming in and out of the trunk, more groceries and kids' bags and things from school and all kinds of stuff. So I like the idea of this smaller kind of case living in hers, and it packs a bigger punch too. So, you know, if she's out and about, or if I need her to come and jump me for some reason, right? Like this would easily jump my Jeep. I like the fact that it's, again, dual purpose. So if she's got a low tire or something like that, she's got access to both in a really easy scenario. If I had to give an overall pick, the Auxito might actually win, because it's a great price and you get both a really strong jumper pack and a tire inflator that works. The LCD screens are good, and you can set the PSI. There's really not anything to dislike about this unit. So if you've got, the $110 for this, that's probably the one I'm going to recommend. The AMPRoad actually lives in my 1993 Jeep Wrangler YJ, Project Emo, if you're familiar with that from the channel. The reason this lives in here is because it's got the nice hard shell case. It's pretty protected. It's a pretty beefy jumper pack, which means I can plenty of power to jump my YJ, but also most other vehicles that I'm going to find on the trail. So if we're out doing something, we come across another Jeep that's down or something like that, this would have the power to jump that too. So that's where the Gulu tends to live in Sioux, which is my 92 YJ, which is the Jurassic Park replica. The reason it lives there is because that Jeep doesn't go out as much. It typically goes to shows and to some other events and things like that, but it's not hitting hard trails. So I really am more concerned about just making sure I can jump that. The YJs are notorious for having their batteries drained because the lights don't turn off. And I'm notorious for leaving the lights on. So I just keep this one in Sioux. and that means that I've got an ability to jump start the Jeep if I happen to leave those lights on and I shouldn't have. And last but not least is the NoCo. That one lives in my son's car, and basically because I don't care. I know that sounds bad, but he doesn't really have stuff that goes in the trunks and things like that. So if it spills out, it's not the end of the world for him. It's plenty of power to jump his car and most of the cars that he would find in his school parking lot and things like that. In an ideal world, you know, I might upgrade him to something like the Auxito where he has both options in a better case. But we've got 6 vehicles and we've got 6 different jumper packs, and they all have to live somewhere. So again, general recommendations are whatever jumper pack you get, make sure it's strong enough for your engine, but also get it a little bit bigger if you can afford to, because you just never know who you're gonna come across who needs a jump. The other thing is, if you've got the ability and you want it to have a tire inflator and something like that, that's fine. If you're trying to use it for airing up on an overland trip, these are not the tools for that. Get an actual dedicated air compressor. Don't rely on something like this to air up your tires on a trip. That said, in an emergency situation, they totally work. But again, I would not be using these things for airing up things like floats and balls and stuff like that, because I think that's a waste of very precious power. And if you're in a situation where suddenly you need to jump start something or you need to air up your tires and you're out of power because you aired up a beach ball, you're gonna be really upset with yourself. But I think that's gonna pretty much do it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative. I'm sure you'll have some comments down below. Maybe you've used some of these. I'd love your feedback. If you've got any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And until next time, God bless, and we will see you on the trails.